All right.
Get a monitor there.
Did everybody like my Valentine cookies?
Did you make those?
I did.
Oh, wait a minute. You baked them? I'm not. He made it to cost.
No, I baked them and decorated them.
You did?
They are, yeah.
Well, they're pretty good.
All right, here you go, Al. You've already been introduced, so.
Thank you. I have. It's good to be here, guys. This has changed a whole lot. Oh, sorry. This has changed a whole lot. At one time, I was in charge of the website, and 40% of the members didn't have a computer. I mean, that's how much things have changed. All right, so let me set this up. I'm not quite ready, but it won't take but a second. All right. So it's never too late to go plant-based. That's the theme of this. This is my journey while eating a whole food, plant-based diet and how it changed and saved my life, never mind improved. And I'm so glad that you run the meeting on slides, because that's the way I run this thing too. All right, like you, I retired up here to
Is that you?
where are we living? I'm having a Biden moment. I retired to El Dorado Hills, and there's two things you need in retirement: health and wealth. And you've got to have health. If you don't have health, you're not going to have fun, you're not going to have energy or vitality. And that worked for me. I worked for about 10, 15 years, and then I saw a lot of this. In 2014, I went, for the first 6 months, I went to the emergency room 6 times. They'd come in and say, "This house looks familiar. Oh, Al, how are you?" I got frequent ambulance smiles. It was wonderful. It was not wonderful. They diagnosed me at 80 years old that I had end-stage coronary artery disease, which, if it sounds serious, it is, because it's end stage. It means you're on your way out, buddy. Okay, but it didn't just happen at once. When I was 48 years old in 1985, don't hit my camera, okay. I had 5-vessel bypass surgery, and that was the most traumatic experience in my life. It felt like somebody put me in a gunny sack. All my ex-wives came over and beat the daylights out of me, and then they threw me down the stairs. So I thought, I'm never going to do that one again. So I decided to change my life, just like Ken decided that he maybe ought to do something different. He didn't want to have another heart attack. Well, I wasn't as smart as Ken, but I took the pledge. My father had died at 59, and they say people will tend to think that heart disease runs in the family. No, what runs in the family are recipes. And the recipe, my father had never, it wasn't a meal unless he had meat. So I thought, I'm going to cut back on meat, but I wasn't as smart as I am now, so I only cut back on red meat. Fish and chicken and pork were all right, I thought. And I decided to go low fat. I figured fat wasn't good. And at the time, and actually today, most people eat 35 to 45% of their caloric intake is fat. So I thought, well, I can cut that in half. So I'll go 20 to 25. That'll be good. And actually, I think that got me to 80. In 1999, I retired, came up to El Dorado Hills and took up bicycling. And I was on the American River Bike Trail. And it was a bike trail, a bunch of us that did it. It started off at the bike that you guys are trying to start up again. A bike club, we did it from SIRS, and we had couples and do it on the weekends. And so I was 5 miles into it, and I got, oh, back pain, oh, chest pain. When you've already had coronary artery disease at 48, yeah, maybe I ought to tell you. So I turned around, bike 5 miles back, threw it in the back of the truck, went home, and the pain didn't go away. So I went into Kaiser, and sure enough, they told me I had a heart attack. So they put a stent in, and I don't know, well, if anybody, I know Ken has had it, but if you had a stent, it's no big deal. And back in the day, they put it in your groin, and then the next day you get up and all the nurses come and look at your groin and say it's no big deal, which I'm not sure you want to hear that. But they send you home, and I thought to myself, the first time it was traumatic. This was nothing. I go in and come out, but they don't treat the underlying cause. So if you don't change anything, you're going to have another one or something. And of course, I said, is everything all right? They were amazed that I'd lived for 20 years with the bypass surgery. So they said, oh no, you're fine, you're fine. They don't know. All right. So in 2013, I had a second stent. I was having pain. Again, no relief of pain. As I say, it doesn't fix anything. It just makes them feel better, and they get a little bunch of money. In 2014, I'm still in pain. I can't do the things I like to do. So they give me two drugs, Imdur and Renexa. Imdur is time-release nitro, and Renexa, which opens up your blood vessels. And Renexa is a drug that does that also. Well, there's a side effect to that. And the side effect is you're falling down. You can't stand up quickly because you don't get enough blood to your brain, and I don't have enough blood half the time to my brain. So you fall down and you get dizzy and you're weak, and it's just not a fun thing. So yet 2016 comes, and I'm still in bad shape. So they put another stent in, didn't help at all. So they send me home and they say, Al, there's nothing we can do for you. We've already put in 3 stents for you, and there's nothing we can do. Most people have 3 vessels that go to their heart. I have 1, and they've already screwed it up by putting 3 in it. And the problem, they said, the vessels in your heart are so small and tiny, we can't help you with that. I thought, well, all right, what can I do? I was lower than snake shit in a wheel rut. I mean, I was depressed. So I had put stair lifts in my house. I live in a tri-level. That means they try to level it, but you can't get anybody in my house without going up or down stairs. So I think, well, all right. So I put the stair lifts in. My wife doesn't want to move. And I left this one in. This is from my garage up to the main level of the house. And I kept this in for friends and people that can't climb stairs. Because this is my age group, you guys. And a lot of you guys, not you guys maybe, but you all know people that can't really go up and down stairs and aren't too mobile. So I had to cancel a whole bunch of trips. I had booked a trip a year. Most of these trips you book a year in advance. So I had booked a trip to Alaska. And as it gets closer and as my body deteriorates, I'm thinking, well, you take a trip you fly into Fairbanks, I think, and then you take a 2.5-hour trip on a little pontoon boat, plane, and into the fishing lodge, and then if something happens, you've got to call them 2.5 hours to get to you, and 2.5 hours. And I'm thinking, do I really, in the shape I'm in, do I want to be 5 hours away? No, so I canceled that trip. I go with a friend of mine, and we go up to Carson City, because we're going 4x4ing. I used to go to the desert every single year to go out and explore, look for mines, just traipse around the desert, have a grand old time getting dusty and dirty. So we go to Carson City, take my little trailer up there, and we get up to the campground, and I can hardly move, I can hardly breathe, I'm having chest pains. And so he has to go sign us in, and that was fine. So what do 2 guys do? We're in a strange city, our wives aren't there. What do? We go to the hardware store, naturally. So we go to the hardware store, and it's a big Lowe's. He's at one end, I'm at the other end, we meet in the middle, and he looks at me and he says, "Oh my God, Al, you look like death warmed over." That really made me feel good. So he takes the truck keys away from me. Loads me up into the truck. We drive back to the campground. He hooks the trailer up, and he drives home. And that was the end of that trip. And now I had promised my wife that I would take her to Paris. She still does. She had cancer, and she figured she didn't have long to live, so I want to go to Paris. All right, honey, I'll take you to Paris. What are you going to say? So we go there, and we had booked a river cruise. And if you can book 3 days in advance and 3 days at the other end, you pay a little extra. And as long as you're over there, why not? So the first part, we're in Paris. We were an extra 3 days in Paris. So we go we sign up through the booking agency for a tour of the city. And part of the tour is you have to go on the underground, whatever, I'm not sure what they call it, the metro, whatever they call it in Paris. And so we get along, and they say, "Don't worry, we got some cripples in the group. You can hang out with them," because I'm walking like this. I mean, I can't really walk. So they said, "All right, we're going to take a tour of the underground." And so we get in there, and it stops, and we have to go to another one at a different level. Well, they say, "Don't worry, there's escalators there. I can go up an escalator. If it's not working, I can't, though." So the escalator wasn't working. It wasn't that tall, but it looked like it. I only had to go up a flight of stairs. But I had to keep up even with the cripples, because I don't know where I am in Paris. If I'm lost, I mean, what the hell? So I got to stay with the group. And so I had on this trip with me, I had the foresight to take a small bottle of nitro, little tiny nitro pills. Well, not on this steps, but on that trip, that day, I blew every single pill I was taking them. I thought, this can't be good for me. This is not a good sign. So we had a nice weekend in Paris. That was the end of that one. And then I had to cancel 2 weddings. One was in Wisconsin, and I'm thinking, I don't want to get in that big silver bird and all of a sudden have a heart attack or have a problem. What are they going to do, ground the plane and take me down? No, I got to sit the rest of the 2 or 3 hours in the plane. So I thought, I'm not going to that. And then we had a wedding in Los Angeles, a family wedding. And I thought, I don't even want to go down there. I became housebound. I was terrified to go any place. It was not a good life. All I could really do was to watch TV or sit in front of the computer, and I don't like TV that much. So after the last stint that Kaiser put in, they said, "Would you like to go to cardiac rehab?" "I'll do anything." In 1985, when I had the 5-vessel bypass surgery, they never offered rehab, but I didn't need it because I was active before I had the pain, and I was active after. So I said, "Yes, I'll do anything." Well, the first half of it, they take me in a room about this size. It's crowded with people. They have a presentation like this. And I walk in, my wife takes me, I walk in the room. I can't walk very fast. And the first half, she says, "We want you to exercise." Exercise? "Yes, you need to get your heart rate up. You need to exercise your heart." I said, "Get it up. I just want it to keep going. Never mind get it up." So they said, "All right." So that was it. That really depressed me. I was looking up at the curb at this point in my life. So the second half was diet. And I thought, now there's something I have control over. I did it in 1985. There's no reason I can't change my life, because I'm sure motive. I don't like my life now. So this fat lady comes out and says, "I'm going to tell you about whole food, plant-based diet." And I thought, bury me now. But she said, good news, she says, "I'm not on the diet." I thought, well, what the hell are they sending you out for? But they did. And so she tells us, she said, excuse me, I can't talk well. She passes out some handouts. And in the handout, this is the image that saved my life. This is in Dr. Echelston's book, and it is one of his patients that had, and if you can see it here, there's an occlusion there. And that supposedly, according to the book, was in an area where they couldn't put a stent in, they couldn't do anything for it. I don't know all the technical details. So 32 months later, if you pay attention to this, and that, I know it's silly, but it wasn't 3 years, it was only 32 months. And my life expectancy at this point in time was in months, not years. So I'm thinking, maybe I could live 32 months. And so I thought, okay, and so she goes on to, I'm going to show you the after one. There's no occlusion there, and if you look at the arteries, they're much bigger and stronger than they were here. Here you can, that one's not too bad. You can't even see any there. So that is what kept me alive. They had told me this years ago. It was the corollary arteries. If your heart, your body is a marvelous thing, and it will heal itself if you'll let it. I'll talk about that in a minute. So they recommended 3 books. The first one was Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease by Dr. Eshelston. Now, the Prevent ship had already sailed, but I thought, could I possibly reverse the heart disease? I don't know, it gave me hope, but at that stage, you're looking for anything for hope, so you have to be careful. The second book was How Not to Die, which is a delightful title, and nobody has figured out how to do that, but he wrote in the book, the very first page of the book, when I picked it up to read it, he talks about why he went into medicine. And the reason he went into medicine is that his grandmother was at 65 years old. Now 65, I'm 80, 65, that's a young chick. He said that she came home from the hospital and they said she had end-stage coronary artery disease, and they said, go home, get your affairs in order, because you're on the way out. But she got herself to California, and she went to the Pritikin Institute, and the main thing the Pritikin Institute did was to put her on a whole food, plant-based diet. She lived, you want to get that? She lived until she was 96 years old, and I thought, boy, that was inspiring. And so the last book that they recommend was the China Study, and it was by T. Colin Campbell, PhD. And at that time, Chow En-lai was the premier of China, and he was dying of cancer. So they said, all right, I want to come to the United States and get Colin Campbell to run a study of he's a PhD in nutrition, of all of the places in China and see what they eat and see what the outcomes are. So it's not an experimental study, it's an observational, but those are all right if they're done right. So he had 6,000 assistants, because China's a big country. And it's all through the country, and they went and they gathered things. And one of the major things that he talks about in the book is that areas of the country where their food was such that it was mostly plant-based and low in fat, if they had less than 10% or less in fat, they didn't have all of the serious diseases we have, like heart disease, cancer, strokes, and in the immune system diseases. And that was, I thought, okay, that spoke to me. I have a background in science. I was chosen to train the first monkey. One of the 2 monkeys went into space. I was chosen to train one of them because of my background in science. And so that spoke to me. It was a hard book to read, but it said something. All right, what is his diet? Here is his diet, quoted right from page 36 of the book. You may not eat anything with a mother or a face, that is, no meat, poultry, or fish, any kind. The second thing is you cannot eat dairy products or eggs. Then that makes sense, because those are both just animal products. You must not consume oil of any kind, not a drop, and that is, people say, oh, oil's good for you, particularly olive oil. No, olive oil isn't any good for you. They take all the olives, take a bushel basket of them, They crush them, they drain all the olives out, you get maybe a cup of olive oil, and then they throw all the fiber and the nutrients away. So, all oil is 4,000 calories in a pound of oil, and there's no basically there's no nutrients at all in it. In vegetables, a pound of vegetables are 100 calories, and they're full of nutrients. So you can see why on this diet you can lose weight really easy. All right, you cannot eat nuts or avocados. Again, nuts are full of fat or oil. This is on this diet. Now, that doesn't say you guys can, somebody else can eat them. I had this discussion with T. Cullen, and I said, really, there's two kinds of diets. There's a preventative. If you're healthy, you want to stay healthy as long as you can. If you're like me, you want a restorative diet. And so this was Echelston's diet. I sort of forgot this. I'm going to go back now. Eshelston took 22 people that were cardiac cripples like me. He was at the Cleveland Clinic in Ohio, and he said, went to all the cardiologists, and he said, give me your worst patient, the patient that doesn't have long to live, the patient you can't do anything for. So he took 22 of them, and he said, I'm going to put you on a diet, and you will stay on this diet, and I guarantee you will feel better. So they did. Well, people being people, I hear the complaints now, I couldn't do that. So they said, well, I'm not going to do that. And 6 of them decided they couldn't eat that way. They'd rather die. And so after about 6 months, they did. They passed, they assumed room temperature, and they're no longer with us. Well, don't laugh. It's not really funny. You can, so anyway, so he's big on that. And he also replicated that study. He was criticized because there was only 18 people. And he replicated that study again a couple years later with 200 people. Same results. All right, no sugar. And think about it, the body just turns sugar into fat. So you want to, if you're like me and you have cardiac problems, you want to stay away from all fat. Low fat. And it goes back to what Campbell said. The fat content should be around 9 to 11%, round it off to 10, and there you have it. So you say, well, how do you keep your fat content low? I don't watch calories, I don't watch fat content, I just avoid processed food. And if you do that, because you look at any label and it has 30 to 40 to 50% fat, and you just stay away from that. Okay. Results. After 4 weeks on the diet, the fellow that I went up to camping with, he and I, with our wives, went up to Tahoe, had lunch at Jake's on the beach, a nice lunch plate. I ordered salad. I bring my own salad dressing with me wherever I go. It's a no-fat salad dressing. And so I had nice dressing, and they said, well, let's go walk on the lake. Now, at this time, after 4 weeks, I really hadn't stretched anything. I hadn't seen if I could walk. I didn't know. So we're at 6,000 feet. You'll remember that Carson City's at 4,700 feet. So I thought, well, let's try it out. So we go down a flight of stairs, 2 flights of stairs to the walkway around the lake. I walk 1.5 miles. I have no chest pains. I got nothing. I thought, this is fantastic. So we get back, and I'm looking. What the hell, I'll try it. Go up the flight of stairs, no chest pains, no problem. That was it, buddy. All right, here's some of the more results. In Paris in 2016, the city of life, I was not a happy puppy. I was chewing nitro. I thought, no. In 2017, after 1 year on the lifestyle, I was 30 pounds later and full of energy. Results now, there's no angina. I can walk long distance. I can climb stairs. As Ken said, I can hike at 11,000 feet, and I'll tell you some more about that later. I now go e-biking, and there's Rich is there, Ken's there, and then I have a tricycle, because the trouble with bicycles is you sit on them for an hour and a half or 2, and you get back and you got to have the seat surgically removed from your butt. There's just, I don't care what you do, they're not comfortable. So I was feeling bad. I thought, I'm really comfortable. I'll just want to show you guys I can ride in 2 wheels too. So there I was on my bike. All right, my cholesterol went from 252 down to 50 in just 3 months. Now the reason I know this is it's now 118 because I've stayed on the diet for I've been on this 5.5 years. I'm 86 now. The reason I know this is because my wife says, "You're too thin. You look terrible. You go to the hospital." So I go into go to the doctor. So I go to the doctor and he says, "Yeah. Here, let me take some blood tests and then come back in a week when I have the results." Okay. So I come back in a week and he says, "All right, look at this. Your cholesterol is down from 252 to 130. That's great. And this is down. This is good." And he said, "And your, I'll go to the next one. I lost 50 pounds. I'm skipping ahead of this. Sorry, guys. My kidney function went 40% to normal." So the doctor's looking at the chart on the computer in front of him, and he says, "Yeah, it's back to normal." And he didn't say back, he said it's normal. I said, wait. You told me it was at 40%, and then I was a candidate for whatever they do. Thank you, dialysis. And I said, "Well, yeah." He said, "Yeah, but look," and he shows me the computer. See, it's green. I thought, well, that doesn't prove anything. Let's do it again. Maybe it's an artifact. Maybe it's a mistake. So they do it again, and sure enough, it's normal. And I said, "Well, how do you explain that?" "I don't know." You get that a lot when you're on this lifestyle. They don't really know what happens. All right, so I think the kidneys would have taken me out if I had lived through any sort of a coronary event. I have a good friend, Maureen, that is a nephrology nurse, and she's now working on her PhD. And so she says, "Al, I give presentations all the time. Can I give one for you?" And I said, "Sure." And he said, "Do I have permission to get all your meds?" I said, "Absolutely." So she got him, and she says, "I calculated your GFR." I have no idea what that means. "It went from 44 to 71. What a lovely improvement of almost 30 points. We say people lose about 1% of their kidney function every year. Well, you gained back 27 years back. Great job." So she also put me in a presentation. I don't get ugly bruises on my arms and hands. This is not me. I don't wear nail polish. But my wife, I had to drag her kicking and screaming along into the diet. And her hands look terrible. And a lot of people, old people that get that, and those have since gone away in her, and I don't have them anymore. But at the time, I did have really ugly purple thing on my leg. And somebody said, "What's that from?" I don't know. But I suspect it has to do from circulation. And after 11 months, that went away. If you ever have bypass surgery, they strip a vein. And in my case, they stripped a vein from my left leg. Well, that means the blood doesn't have a way to get back. And so it sort of puddled in my left foot. And it wasn't swollen, but it was kind of puffy. And you couldn't see the arteries in your vein when you look down. And after about 18 months, that went away. This is an interesting one. My PSA went from 7 to 3.8. At 75, Kaiser really doesn't interested in giving you PSA tests. And so when it was 70 when I last time I took it, they said, "Oh, it's fine. Yeah, it goes up as you get older. You get a lot of that too. It gets worse as you get older." That isn't necessarily true. So I had gone to Dr. McDougall's 10-day live-in course on whole food plant-based. And they tested you 3 times. First, when you first came in, then they tested you again, a blood test halfway and at the end. So at the very end, I went to him. I said, "I want my PSA tested." "Well, we don't test that." I said, "I don't care. I'll pay for it. Why don't you test me?" So I said, "Oh, all right." So they tested me, and it came out 3.8. Now, this is the number of pills I took went from 20 to 8. Every day I was taking 20 pills. I mean, just a whole Dixie cup full of them. And I was down to 1, but anytime the doctors get near you, they want to give you a pill. And what are you going to do? You say, I can't take it. Well, I did. And now I have an increase in mental acuity that I've noticed. And you say, well, how do you know it's increased? Just the way you feel. And I said, no, I have proof. My wife always thinks I'm an ass. Now she thinks I'm a smart ass. All right. So, and this is the one that I find amazing. At 86, I really don't have aches and pains. I mean, if I sit too long, I have to, I have a hard, okay, it's loaded up, but then as soon as I walk a couple steps, it goes away. And have a couple minor ones I didn't put on here. I have hearing aids, and I don't get earwax anymore. I mean, that's really weird. If anybody has earwax, you know that your hearing aids, they get that squeaky feedback. And then the other one, which we're all done with lunch, that's good. I don't get constipated anymore. I used to have terrible constipation. And I was taking prunes for a while. Well, then that didn't work. And so then I started having to take a laxative. Well, that's not too neat, because once you take a laxative, you got to stay near a toilet. So anyway, it goes away. It totally goes away because you're eating nothing but fiber. The standard American diet, you don't get enough fiber. So I go twice a day. I get in there, sit down, get up, do the paperwork, and get the hell out of there. And I'm not in there for more than 5 minutes. All right, and the last one is the most important one. For me it is, I have peace of mind now. I don't have that big rock, oops, wrong button. There we go. I don't have that big rock over my head waiting for the big one, waiting for the elephant to sit on your chest, and they take you to the hospital and you say, that's it, my life is over. You never come out of the hospital. So that one was a big one for me. All right, so what have I learned on this? Quite a bit, but the body has an incredible ability to heal itself if you will just let it. And if you'll just let it by not putting things into it, it wasn't designed to eat. And basically that's it. You cannot care more about someone's health than they do. My wife for one, but after the 4 weeks on this diet, I had such an improvement. I went out and bought 10 copies of each one of those 3 books. I gave them to all of my friends, my relatives, my loved ones, and nobody really read them. I had two friends, one of which was in SIRS, and one of them was a relative that had Parkinson's disease. And so those, I took them and gave them Dr. Greger's book, and he talks, there's a whole chapter on that in the book about what to eat if you have an immune system disease like lupus, Parkinson, and even Alzheimer's. And anyway, neither one of them read the book. Both of them have long since gone. And one of the widows came to me and said, Al, we never opened the book. Why don't you give it to someone that cares? I said, yeah. Now, the other thing is, if you're serious about this, as I am, you've got to surround yourself with like-minded, whole food, plant-based people, because they understand what you're going through. And you get together with it. And I have a Wednesday, unfortunately, I'd love to come back to Kaiser, but I'd love to come back to Freudian slip there. I'd like to come back to SIRS, but I have a Wednesday group that I've set up, and we have 15 to 30 people come, and we sit around and we talk. And what we talk about is little tips and tricks that we've learned, things that make the food more savory, make it more interesting to eat, and it's really great. Whereas if you go out and go to dinner, which I do, still with my carnivore friends, and what they tend to talk about is aches and pains that they have, and things that they've taken out of their body, that the surgeons take out of their body, and worrying about COVID. And it's basically positive versus negative. Sorry if I've offended most of you, but that's what I do. So the other thing is, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. So, and you have to care more about your health than other people's feelings. Like, I felt bad about sending the little gal back but I wasn't going to eat it. It had oil in it, so I brought my own food today, and I had a sweet potato, and I had some couscous salad, which is delicious cold. All right, and the last thing is, it's not how long you live, it's how well you live. You want to live just having a ball until the last, say, 10, 15 days, and then you deal out. That's it. At least that's my goal in life. And the other thing is that I don't have it on here, but you don't really appreciate health or money until you don't have them. So, now, it's never too late to go plant-based. If I can do this, anyone can. I don't have any special talents. I don't have special willpower or anything. I do have the ability to make a decision and stick by it, and I have the ability to read and follow instructions, and I think all of you guys do here too. Now, at this point, you're all cognitive dissonance. You're all saying, in cognitive dissonance is when you learn new information that doesn't agree with things that you've known your whole life. And we all know what we eat is healthy, we think. So cognitive dissonance, you say, well, and I've had people say this, it works for you, but it isn't going to work for everybody. You have special genes or special this or that. No, it works for everybody, and I'm going to show you. This is my friend Esther, and he and her husband Ben. Now, they were world travelers. She loves to travel, but she got so heavy, 300 and some pounds, that her knees went out. She was in an airport in Europe, and she had to go walk a long distance to get to the airplane, and she almost couldn't do it. So she came back, and she thought, well, I ought to go on a different diet. So she tried yo-yo dieting, and one of the diets she tried was the keto diet. And one time on the keto diet, she was in Ohio, and she had a gallbladder attack. So they took her to the hospital, and the gallbladder was inflamed, and they come to her room and they say, we're going to have you take your gallbladder out, but it's so infected, we got to beat the infection first. And she says, all right, have you talked to your children? And she says, what do you mean? She says, yeah. She says, well, you may not make it through this. And so that scared her the daylights out of her, but she did. And she went back, I want to get the knee surgery. And they said, well, you've got to lose 70 pounds before you have your knee. I think they were going to replace them. So she got all depressed. Somebody gave her a book by John McDougall, and it was on the ultimate weight loss. And she said, like I did, that's why she and I hit it off. We both started in July of 16, and she says, and I say to this day, anything worth doing is worth doing to wretched excess. So she took the same attitude. She made the decision to go on the diet and stick to it. She's lost 155 pounds. Her husband says, I'm done with all this dieting. I'm tired of it. But then he watched the results that she had. And so he said, well, I'll go on it as soon as we get rid of all the meat in the freezer. So he waited until then. He went out. Now he since then has lost 70 pounds. Remember I gave a lecture to 4 people. It was over these people's house, Dawn and Ruby. They were both, by their own admission, by their description, they were circling the drain. They were 79, almost 80. One was 80, one was 79. They were obese. They had 5. My little presentation spoke to him because he had a bypass surgery. He had 2 angioplasty, and he couldn't walk his dog without the scooter. And she could barely get out of bed. Now, she's still in the wheelchair because she had infantile paralysis as a youngster. So she's never been able to walk right. But now they go out and they hike with us. They do all sorts of things. And they started this diet on November of 2019. They both lost 70 pounds, and it's a good success story. This is my buddy Larry. He is an amateur geologist, and he says, do you want to go to the desert with me? Sure. He wanted me to go because I have an RV. So we go to the desert, and I said, okay, we're going for 2 weeks. I'm going to bring the food and do the cooking. He said, oh, all right, that would be fine. While we were there, the 2 weeks we were there, he lost 10 pounds. I didn't, because that's what I normally eat. And we hiked from, he found a open pit mine that he wanted to go to. And we started at 10,300 feet. We hiked 5 miles up and back, and the mine was at 11,000 feet. I was quite proud of that. All right, and then my last one is my friend Donna. She lost 70 pounds since April 2018. Doesn't look like it, but anyway, she did. And the weight just melts up. And it's very simple, because you're not eating any fat. Okay, then the last one is a book that was just out, and it's an inspiring book. It's 36 individuals tell their stories, and they tell all the diseases they got rid of, like chronic fatigue syndrome, kidney disease, which I did, acne, depression, asthma, irritable bowel syndrome, gallbladder, lupus, cancer, and strokes. And my friend Esther and Ben are both in the book, which is one reason I show it. These are the 7 most recognizable doctors, and the thing that convinced me, this isn't one guy's opinion. This whole diet, this whole lifestyle, if you will, is fact-based. And there's 3 or 4 more doctors that I do not follow, but they all still recommend the same thing. All right, so we're back to the cognitive dissonance. You say, Al, okay, you've shown me yourself, you've shown me other people, but how come I don't know about this? I mean, some of you probably never heard about this. Well, I don't have an answer for that, but I have a suggestion. Let's follow the money. Let's see. The American Diabetes Association, Cancer Society, Susan G. Komen, and the American Heart Association are all funded by these people. And if you look at them, you've got, let's see if I can read some of them, Nebraska Beef Council, Colorado Beef Council, Idaho Beef Council, Texas Beef, South Dakota, Kentucky Beef Council. And then they've got all the junk food. That's in the Heart Association. So these are just funding the association. Well, let's do a little deeper. Let's go to the who does the research. American Diabetes Association, is all funded by drug companies. If you have diabetes or pre-diabetes, you go to the doctor and you say, I got diabetes. They say, oh, here, take a pill, and then come back and I'll check you. And so you're their patient for as long as you got to take this pill the rest of your life. If they tell you to go on this diet, you'll never see them again. And in 10 days, you will lick diabetes. I've seen 2 people do that. Now, I'm not recommending that you go on this diet to lick it. I mean, I am recommending it, but don't do it without your doctor, because you can end up getting too much insulin. You're still taking what their prescription is, and your body is now making it. And the other caveat is that it doesn't work if you've had diabetes so long that your pancreas doesn't create it anymore. At some point with diabetes, your body will quit making insulin, and it won't work anymore. And of course, the Heart Association is the same thing. In neither case do they treat the underlying problem. All they do is treat the symptoms. All right, and you say, well, doesn't somebody protect us from that? Sure, here's the U.S. Dietary Advisory Commission, and there's the links they have to all the things so if you want to hear more about this, I have in the back table, there's a whole bunch of DVDs that I've made up, and on this is called What the Health, and you can go back, and there's probably almost enough for everybody. If you're interested, take as many and different kinds as you want. If you're not, that's all right. Okay, now what do I eat? I eat healthy and delicious food. The reason that it's delicious is after about 6 weeks, your taste buds change, and they're not being overwhelmed by salt, oil, and sugar. So you can taste subtle difference. Food now becomes multi-flavorful. You can taste all the different things in it. For an evening meal, starting off on this, and in fact, I've got a couple of DVDs back there on how to start becoming a vegan diet. for evening meals, batch cook, make a whole bunch of it, of your favorite meal that you like as a carnivore. I like stir fry. Well, now we make stir fry, don't put any meat in it, and we don't stir fry it in oil. We use vegetable stuff. Peas and lentil soup. Instead of putting ham in the peas, I put carrots in it. It's much better. And then spaghetti or pasta, just don't put meat, hamburger in the spaghetti sauce. And we go to get spaghetti sauce that has no oil in it. All right, so what do I eat for breakfast? Groats. They are what they're what horses eat. I'm not bad. And if you cut groats twice, you have steel cut oats, and if you run it through rollers, you have rolled oats, or what you and I call oatmeal. And it takes longer for the body to digest it. It goes into the system slower, and it's better for you. I put a banana on it, fried blackberries, raspberries, and then blueberries. All right, for lunch, remember we batch cook all those meals. So I will have what I had 2 nights before, so that I don't have what I had for dinner last night, and so I get a little more variety in my life. And a couple of tips here. If you go to the store to buy any sort of canned good, get the ones with no salt added. And this is a little trick that a friend of mine showed me. He was trying to lose weight, and so he would bed a lettuce, put a couple tomatoes on it, and then put this is the ultimate Bird's Eye Ultimate Southwest blend, and there's nothing in it, no added extras. Corn, black beans, green and red peppers, and roasted onions, and that's it. No monosodium, whatever the hell that stuff is. All right, every Wednesday I have a Now group that comes to this vegan plate in Roseville, and there's 15 or 20 of us. We sit down, exchange things, and it's working so well. We're starting to doing something on Saturday nights, because people like to associate with people that share the same values. It turns out if you and your 5 closest friends all have the same values, the same interests, and the same ideals. I mean, that's the way it works out. So when I went on this diet, I thought, oh shit, I need all new friends. And this is my card that I hand people, and when we're on the trail and I see people and we start talking, I give them this card. And you can go to my website there, and I have different resources, different videos that I've made. And I'm probably going to put this one on there. So, are there any questions? That's it. Anybody? Have I bored you? Yes, sir.
You mentioned stir fry.
Yes.
And we would normally you would use a non-stick or an oil to keep it, and you called it stuff.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm having another Biden moment.
All right.
It is vegetable broth. I couldn't think of the word broth.
Oh,
You can use water. You can fry in water. You can saute onions in water. You don't need to use oil. Because the oil, what it does is it just absorbs into whatever it is you're frying. And then you eat it. And you don't need it.
Okay.
That's good. Eat it and eat it. Yeah. Anything else? Come on. There he is. Bill.
I know you drink a beer occasionally.
I do.
What's the limit or no limits on, well, obviously limits on alcohol.
Well, here's the thing. You know, I mean, we're not saints. And is it good for you? Anybody here think alcohol is good for you? No. So if you're on the edge like I was, and am probably still, you don't want to become an alky. You don't want to screw up your liver as well as your heart and your other circulatory system. So Dr. Echelston I don't want to use the word allow, but he understands that if you want to have a beer now and then, it's fine. At 86, my body does not metabolize alcohol as well as it did. I think you're all going to run into this. So sometimes I don't sleep well at night if I have a beer. So, or two. I've never had two. I'm down to one beer, and I usually it's about once a week or once every other week.
Yeah.
But I do drink beer, yes.
Do you eat your cereal dry?
Do I eat it dry? I eat it cold. Yes. It has the consistency of mush, I don't know what to call it, but I make it up in a Instapot or a pressure cooker. I make a batch for 8 days. So I make it once a week and I just scoop it out, and it's like oatmeal.
Yeah.
But I don't put any liquid on it, to answer your question.
What, just dry?
I'm sorry.
Just dry?
No, I put bananas and raspberries and.
No water? I mean, no water? You don't mix it?
No, no. When you cook it,
I do.
you put 2 cups of oatmeal and you put 4 cups of water in the pressure cooker, and then that comes out and it's
Pasty. Yeah, with water then. I mean, you're doing it with water, right?
Well, he's
no, I
cooking-
don't put
he's
anything
cooking
on
with
it.
water.
I cook it. Well, I cook it with blueberry juice because it gives it even more flavor.
I'm confused now.
He cooks,
I know. Well, listen. In Echelston's book, the first thing he puts, he says he uses just plain oatmeal, and then he uses a cup of oatmeal, and then he puts a cup of apple juice on there,
Oh, okay.
and he eats it cold. And I'm thinking,
I do
oh
know
no,
water.
that can't be right. I tried it and I got hooked on it. I liked it, but I like the groats better.
Yeah.
They're very flavorful. Come on over, I'll feed you
I eat
breakfast.
them every morning, but I mean, I make them with a cup of water. That's why I asked.
Well, you don't eat, but you don't eat groats though.
I don't know what groats are, I'm sorry.
Groats they look like,
Yeah, little, very small,
they look like
steel.
rice. They look like little bits of rice, about the same size.
That's right, that's what we have, the steel, they call.
Oh, you have steel cut.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, that's close enough.
But I mean, I do cook them with water though.
Yeah,
Okay,
you cook them in water and then you eat them.
yeah, that's what I do, okay.
I don't
you-
put a bag over my face and
I
eat them like
think you
that.
said something, I do it dry, I'm trying to figure out how you do it.
He
you
just
know?
meant you don't add milk and other stuff on top.
No, you add fruit with it, just fruit with it. You cook them and then add fruit to it.
Yeah, yeah.
Where are
what
you
I
on
do,
almond milk?
I dry
I'm sorry?
cereal.
Almond milk? Almond milk?
Hamlin?
Almond.
Almond.
Almond milk.
Not milk.
You knock the L out of it, there's an almond.
Well, that-
Almond milk.
Okay, yes, as
Plant-based.
long as it's not, no other animal in the world
Yeah.
drinks another animal's milk,
Oh, okay.
except us. But yeah, almond milk is fine.
Okay, good.
I limit the amount I eat because there is still some fat in almonds that are a nut. So I limit that, but I do eat it, yeah. Almond rice milk, there's a lot of, they're much better than, to wean yourself out of regular milk, it's much better.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Looks like your diet's very low in protein. What do you,
The diet is not low in protein.
No.
that's my
There's-
question. How much protein do you eat a day?
Do you know what percentage of protein the human body requires? 6%.
6%, yeah.
That's what mother's breast milk is. Cow's milk is 30% protein. And if you go to any hospital, any doctor, any medical society and say, is there any cases of protein deficiency in the United States?
No.
And they'll say no, they've never heard of it. As long as you get enough caloric intake, beans, for instance, have more protein than beef. So does broccoli.
So do you have a number of grams of protein you shoot for?
Well, no, I don't, because I don't worry about it. They say, I went to a nutrition at Kaiser, and she said I needed 50 grams of protein. And I said, all right. And so she has this, and I even did this too. She showed me the program. You can get it on the internet, and everything you eat, it tells you how much protein you have. Everything you eat, and everything you eat gives you protein. Where do you think the cows get the protein from? They get it from the plants.
Right.
And they're reprocessing it, and then when you eat the protein, quote unquote, from the animals, it's been reprocessed. Just go straight to the source. What's the biggest, strongest animal in the world is a gorilla, and they eat 60 pounds of vegetables a day, and they get tons of protein. It's not protein you guys are missing. or not you guys, but carnivores, they don't get enough fiber. That's what you don't get enough. If you have to sit down and worry about going, you don't get enough fiber. So,
Al,
yes.
you drink a lot of water, like Tom Brady? Are you a water guy or what?
No, I probably don't drink enough. I probably should drink more, but I had a cup here, and I'll try to drink a glass during the day.
Okay.
I'm not a good example of the water drinker.
Okay.
And there are certain things you can supplement protein with, like flaxseed, which is very high in omega-3s
Yes.
and full of protein. So I add that with my
You just
cereal.
have it,
Yeah, I put flaxseed when I
But
generate.
You
Yes.
need to grind it up
Yes.
very small.
because it's small and you don't digest it.
It goes right through you if you don't grind it. It just no benefit at all. Also, you do have to take vitamin B12 because that's the sunshine vitamin, and no, that's not the sun. I'm sorry. That's the vitamin you get from the soil, and we have ruined our soil, so it doesn't grow it anymore. So we have to manufacture it, and even if carnivores will generally get it from the beef that they eat or the meat that they eat, but not always. Yes, sir.
Is there a recipe book out for you for this
Yes,
category?
there are tons of them.
Are
If you go to my website, I can show in the website. You go to resources, and it will give you a ton. I just put 9 on recently. My wife is the cook in the family. I am blessed. She's an excellent cook, and I put 9 of her favorite cookbooks on there. Plus, there's a whole bunch of websites that if you sign up for them, they send you recipes every week. So yes, there's a lot of information out there. Yes, sir.
Did you say that your wife follows the same diet as you?
She does now. She's not as big on the low oil as I am. She had a stroke in 15, and then she had cancer in 15. She had liver cancer that has stage 4. It's metastasized, and it's gone into her lungs. And she's on the diet, although not as strict as I am. And they did a what do you call it when they shoot a X-ray, and they got rid of the little. This was 3 or 4 years ago. They got rid of the one that occurred, and it hasn't come back. And so we just keep our fingers crossed. But your body is constantly killing cancer. Your cancer is when a cell metastasizes and it goes wrong, and the body says, "Whoops, I recognize that," and it goes to it. If you take cancer cells in a petri dish and you put my blood in that petri dish, it'll kill almost all the cancer cells. If you put somebody that's been eating carnivore food, it'll kill maybe 5 or 10%. So if the food that you eat prevents the body from overwhelming the cancer cells, and it's that simple. If you have cancer, and I'm hoping it works for my wife, she will die of something else as long as she stays on this diet. So, yeah.
And I will add that it's very important that if you have a wife that you both.
Yes, it is. It's
Yeah.
very hard to get them on board. I mean, it
Very
is,
difficult to do on your own.
and it's, it's the, if you're not, I showed her the part, if you're not part of the problem, honey, you're part of the solution, you're part of the problem. She didn't like that one at all.
That is it.
But, anything else? There we go, sorry.
Do you feel this diet has helped your immune system, for example, having
Yes.
COVID?
Absolutely. They did, as I was mentioning this at the table, they did, when the COVID first came out, Lancet, the journal in England, did a study of first responders, and they broke them down into 3 different eating patterns. They had the whole food plant-based, they had the standard, I guess it would be a standard British diet, the standard diet, And then they had quote unquote a Mediterranean diet, which what the hell is Mediterranean? The way they eat in Italy, the way they eat in Greece. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. And then they had the keto diet. The people on the standard American diet, and you can Google this when you get home. People on the standard American, whole food plant-based diet, they had less infection. The infections were less severe, they had less hospitalizations, and they had less deaths. They were the best. And then came the quote-unquote Mediterranean diet, and then came, I think, maybe the standard diet. And the worst one, by a long shot, was the keto diet. And they had the most fatalities, the most sickness, and whatever. So, and that wasn't the only study. That's just the first one I came up on. They've done a lot of these studies. This lifestyle allows your immune system to become the best it can be. Yes, sir.
An oyster doesn't have a face. Now, I don't know if it has a parent. Can you eat an oyster?
No, it's no animal products. No animal products, period.
Shellfish or animals?
Shellfish. So there's,
They have an eye, you can't eat it.
if you eat a lot of, we were talking about protein. If you eat a lot of protein, your body recognizes that, and it sends out an enzyme. Your body is incredibly smart. It sends out an enzyme that protects the kidneys, because animal protein is hard on your kidneys, which is probably why mine were down to 40%. If you eat the same amount of protein from beans, from plants, whatever it is, the same amount of that protein, the body doesn't send that enzyme out, and the kidneys just go through and no problem at all. For those of you that don't believe that we are not carnivore. Everybody says, oh, we're omnivores. Bears are omnivores. Look at the teeth that bears have. We don't have those. We're the only animal that I can think of that can move their jaw sideways. Go like that. You can do that. Other animals, bears can't do it. Quote unquote omnivores can't do it. We don't have the same dentistry that they have. We don't have the same digestive system they have. Carnivores, like your dog and cats, they have a digestive system that's 3 times their body length. Ours is 5 times our body length, because we need to take all that time to digest the fruits and vegetables that we eat. Next, anybody else? Have I bored you yet? No? You're still awake though. Yes, sir.
Were you a smoker?
No, I never smoked.
So you had a pretty good lifestyle before the heart?
Well, it wasn't good enough, was it? Yeah, I thought I did. I thought I lived healthy, but I didn't eat healthy. My favorite, I loved, was pulled pork sandwich, and I don't miss anything. If anybody, don't even ask me that question. I make pulled pork now out of jackfruit, which has the consistency of meat, and you just add all that sauce into it, and it's still good. Yes. Did you? Joe? No?
No.
Oh, I thought you're just picking your nose, huh? Yes.
What kind of bread do you eat?
I don't eat a lot of bread. At my age and my mental acuity may be better, but it isn't as what I'd like it to be. And I have noticed if I eat too much bread, I get brain fog. And so there are people that get see, I can't talk either, that get brain fog from gluten. So I sort of avoid it. No particular, just from that reason. And there's, sandwiches are all right. Every once in a while I miss a sandwich, and there's a restaurant I go to that will put fake meat on it, and I'll have that once in a while, but not very often. Anything else? No? Okay.
It's interesting.
Switch back.
Okay, yeah, I'll take it. without the computer, right?
Well, I got visuals.
Yes.